Well, the U.S. ambassador to Canada says it will be at least a month before there is any kind of trade deal between our nations. CTV's Colton Praill is following the latest developments on this. Tell us more.
Yeah, Jamie, Ambassador Hoekstra speaking yesterday saying that because of the Doug Ford, Ontario, Ronald Reagan ad that aired in the United States, that the U.S. views as a form of election interference. Don't forget, they have local, state, and gubernatorial elections coming up at the start of November, that trade talks have stopped and that he doesn't see a way back into those discussions. Prior to that ad, however, Hoekstra is saying that he believed a deal was ready to be done, very close to being done, could have been signed in a matter of days, and certainly by the end of November or American Thanksgiving. He says that deal would have included relief on things like aluminum, steel, and energy. And in energy, he included oil and uranium. Now, because of that ad, he says trade talks are stopped, and he doesn't see a way back. At this point, it's not clear when those talks could restart. But what we are seeing on the Canadian side is a positive reaction to that ad from Doug Ford and from other premiers as well, like David Eby, who is planning to still run his own ad in the United States, highlighting tariffs on British Columbia. Have a listen.
It is absolutely essential that we talk to Americans about the implications of tariffs, about the fact that trade policy in the United States right now is governed not by logic, not by economics, not by relationship, but by something else entirely.
Now, David Eby wouldn't say whether or not he would pull the ad if the federal government asked him to, or if the federal government was okay with him running that ad. He says he's invited Dominic LeBlanc and Melanie Joly out to BC to see the devastating situation in the auto industry. But what we have seen is Doug Ford say that the federal government was at least aware of his ad. He says Mark Carney and his chief of staff had seen the ad prior to it airing in the United States. Now, the Prime Minister's office was asked about that. They did not respond directly to the question of whether or not the Prime Minister had seen the advertisement. But it does beg the question of the national strategy in these negotiations, whether or not there needs to be more cohesion from the Prime Minister's office down, or just how involved they've actually been. And that's a question that's even being asked by the American side. Here's Ambassador Pete Hoekstra on what he sees as a dichotomy or a juxtaposition between the provinces and the federal government that's slowing down negotiations.
Not necessarily everybody who's part of Team Canada is necessarily as interested in getting to a deal, or they are not totally aligned strategically on how the best way it is to get to a deal.
Things stand, there is no planned return to those talks, and there are plenty of questions for the Prime Minister, who, as we chat, will likely be in bed or about to be in bed because of the time difference. But I would expect later tonight and certainly into tomorrow a lot of questions for the Prime Minister on his strategy with the U.S. and whether or not there needs to be more transparency with Canadians about what's going on.
CTV's Colton Praill, we appreciate that report. Thank you.